unity, duty, destiny. In the time before time, on the island of Matanui, 6 canisters washed ashore on a golden beach. And new and powerful legends were added to the annals of LEGO history. Tahu, courageous Toa of fire. Liwa, agile Toa of air. Gali, noble Toa of water. Kopaka, powerful Toa of ice. Onua, wise Toa of earth. Teamed with Pohatu, mighty Toa of stone, these 6 heroes were the beginning of a new age for the LEGO franchise. One that would pull it from the brink of bankruptcy and help reforge it into the titan it remains to this day. This was the age of Bionicle. LEGO's origin dates back to 1932, and, as with many companies with such a long history, has gone through many changes in its lifetime. Originally holding to the mandate that children and their imaginations be the driving force of the LEGO story, the original LEGO products were simple brick building sets, allowing for the unlimited possibilities of a child's mind to flourish. While this served them well in their formative years, they soon realized that the essential hook for any active imagination is a good story. They originally tried to remedy this by licensing other franchises as story material for a new wave of sets, alongside the pre-existing themes that had been popular in the middle years. Unfortunately, this was a costly route that left the company paying large percentages of its profits in royalties. This led to a new drive in the company to work towards creating their own original story, which, after a few failed attempts, brings us to Bionicle, the Bionic Chronicle. Based in a biomechanical universe, the original story took place on the island of Matanui, an island made up of 6 regions, each aligned with a specific element, or element as this universe defines it. The inhabitants of these regions were known as Matoran, led by village elders known as Turaga. Defending these villages and the island as a whole were a team of 6 guardians, the Toa, each possessing powerful elemental abilities unique to their origins and homes. This was the franchise's central premise for 3 years before the story opened up to include a new wave of material. With this first step into a larger world, the creators introduced a new status quo. New islands, new characters, and an increasingly complex history for a rapidly expanding setting. The growth of the franchise was built on the success of the original line, though. The creators were given a lot of leeway within the company, pushing the boundaries of what LEGO had tried to do in years past with renewed vigor. Not only were these toys more intricate than anything LEGO had yet produced, they came with an original story attached to simple but inspired lore. Lore that was shot straight into kids' homes in every way imaginable. Books, comics, movies, games, even discs with CGI story shorts packed in with the physical sets themselves. Old fans of the franchise will also remember Monog, the Matanui online game, which was the first real dive into the mechanics of Matoran society and the obstacles the Toa faced as they awoke from their canisters. This project in particular was incredibly ambitious given the limited scope of online games amongst the target audience at the time. It was a simple point-and-click adventure game, but it was bursting with heart and creativity, the ever-present secret of the franchise's immense success. Few endeavors so successfully blend the essential factors of merchandisability with genuine creative talent the way LEGO managed with Bionicle. Kids today are in good hands with their LEGO stories, but back then, you hadn't seen anything like this before. The multitude of different advertising strategies brought in an entire generation of LEGO lovers. They had their audience hooked. The creators faced the challenge then of keeping the new content coming. A factor that would define the nature of the franchise moving forward was the LEGO execs' belief that the characters only had a shelf life of 3 years. This led, for better or for worse, to the introduction of new characters to the setting. More than just the new enemies we have seen in years past, now we would get new heroes as well. Helming this new age of Bionicle was seasoned LEGO writer Greg Farshtey, whom some of our younger viewers may recognize as the current writer of the Ninjago comics. Making his debut in Bionicle Chronicle 4, which incidentally is the first time Metro Nui is ever mentioned, Farshtey's tenure encompassed a grand total of 24 books, 6 online serials, and quite literally every comic ever written. It was him who introduced such beloved concepts as the legendary Kanohi and Dark Hunters, as well as less favorable ones like the Matoran Love retcon and, well, everything relating to the Brotherhood of Makuta. The first of this, shall we say, Farshtey wave were the Toa Metru, and were an excellent way to bring the idea of change to the audience. With these and all other generations of Toa to follow, we had been introduced to the characters that would make up the team ahead of time. As Turaga in this case, but with the Matoran in future as well. This meant that kids had a chance to get familiar and comfortable with the characters that would be ultimately replacing, at least temporarily, the favored originals they had been growing up with. Not that the generational transitions were always smooth, mind you. The rapid growth of the franchise and constant need to innovate, not to mention keep up with the aging demographic, left some inevitable bumps along the way. Yo-Yo Paraka, anyone?
Yo-Yo Paraka! Yo-Yo Paraka!
But thankfully, fan response helped to write that course pretty immediately with this one. So at least we could take solace in the fact that the creators were still listening. Well, listening to an extent anyway. As mentioned, these later eras brought slews of continuity shakeups that, while interesting, made the narrative increasingly convoluted. 6 Toa types became 17, Makuta was no longer Matanui's brother, but actually just a powerful member of a species called the Makuta named Pterodax that served him so well he was just considered to be a brother. And Matanui himself turned out to be not a god, but a 40 million foot tall robot designed by a group of ancient beings wanting to explore the universe. Needless to say, these changes deviated from what fans originally fell in love with. This unfortunately led to the ever-common fandom rift between those who appreciate the overhaul changes and those who prefer the original concept of the setting. Speaking for ourselves, we view the changes as very much hit and miss. We greatly enjoyed the Metro Nui era, some creative decisions notwithstanding. The team dynamic of the Toa Inika, later the Toa Mari, for instance, is easily the most well-developed in any of the franchise. That said, this trilogy also saw the introduction of many of the more controversial elements we mentioned previously. And no, we are not fans of the Pterodax Makuta Brotherhood change. Still though, we do not view these slip-ups, as we see them, as crippling for the franchise. We continued to follow the narrative through the Fantoka run to the Spherus Magnus saga, right up until the franchise's rather unique accolade of having a decisive conclusion. The story ran for 10 years, ultimately concluding with a climactic battle between Matanui and Pterodax. The franchise might not have gone the way you liked, but it certainly went out with a bang. So ended the decade-spanning franchise that forever changed the way LEGO would connect with its audience. We all have those special parts of our childhoods, those books, TV shows, films, and games that fill us with waves of nostalgia whenever we look back on them in fondness. Some even hold that esteemed place of having helped define who we grew up to be. A lot of media has accomplished this for millions of children over the years, but it is particularly unusual and rare for that honor to fall to a toy franchise. It may not have changed who we were as people in the same way other stories did, but for us, it certainly achieved more than any other toy line came close to. For these reasons, we will always look back in fondness at the day 6 canisters washed ashore on a golden beach.